I woke up feeling like I'd been scraped from the inside out. Not the kind of tired you get from a bad night's sleep. This was deeper, like something had been siphoning me empty while I wasn't looking. My hands trembled when I reached for my phone. 7:30 in the morning, and I already felt like I'd run a marathon through barbed wire. The tingling started in my lower back, just a faint buzz at first. The kind of thing you'd ignore, right off as sleeping wrong or sitting too long. I stretched, rolled my shoulders, waited for it to pass. It didn't pass. It spread up my spine, vertebra by vertebra, like someone was dragging a live wire along the inside of my bones. I stood up too fast and nearly collapsed. My legs weren't responding right. There was a delay between what I wanted and what my body did. A fraction of a second that felt like falling through ice. I told myself it was nothing. Stress, lack of sleep. Maybe I was getting sick. I shuffled to the bathroom and splashed water on my face. In the mirror, I looked pale, hollow. My pupils were too wide. Black pools that didn't seem to belong to me anymore. I blinked hard and looked away. The sensation intensified while I was brushing my teeth. It felt like something was touching the nerves directly. Not my skin, not my muscles. The pathways underneath, the invisible threads that carried feeling from one part of me to another. I could sense them lighting up in sequence. Left hand, right shoulder, base of my skull. It wasn't random, it was methodical, like someone walking through a house, flipping switches, learning the layout. My toothbrush clattered into the sink. My hand had just stopped obeying me mid-motion. I stared at my fingers. They twitched, curled, straightened, not because I told them to, because something else did. By the time I got to work, I was sweating through my shirt. The office felt too bright, too loud, every sound scraping against the inside of my head. My coworker Diana asked if I was okay. I nodded and mumbled something about not sleeping well. She didn't look convinced. I didn't care. I just needed to sit down, focus, get through the day. The tingling had settled into a constant hum now, vibrating beneath my skin like an engine idling. I tried to work, I really did, but my hands kept freezing on the keyboard. Letters would appear on the screen that I didn't type, random strings of characters, my fingers drumming patterns I didn't recognize. I deleted them, they came back, faster this time, as if whatever was controlling my hands was getting impatient. Then the heat came. It started at the base of my spine and erupted upward like gasoline catching fire. I arched back in my chair, mouth open, but no sound came out. My muscles locked. Every nerve in my body ignited at once. I was burning from the inside, but there were no flames. Just this unbearable, crawling heat that climbed through every nerve pathway, every synapse, every fiber. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but feel it spreading. And then, just as suddenly it stopped, I slumped forward, gasping. My coworkers were staring. Someone asked if I needed an ambulance. I shook my head, waved them off, said I just needed air. I stumbled outside before anyone could stop me. My legs barely held me up. I leaned against the brick wall of the building, chest heaving, trying to understand what the hell had just happened. That's when I felt it again. The not pulling on my body, pulling on the sensation itself, like someone had grabbed the feeling in my left arm and was dragging it toward my right leg, pain that didn't belong there, pressure that made no anatomical sense. My nervous system was being rerouted in real time, and I could feel every wrong connection snapping into place. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking violently, but it wasn't fear. It was something using them to test range of motion, to see how far they could move, how hard they could grip. I watched my own fingers curl into fists, so tight my knuckles went white. I watched them release, Curl again, release, over and over, like someone practicing. I drove home. I don't remember deciding to. I just found myself behind the wheel, hands locked at 10 and 2, moving through traffic on autopilot. Except it wasn't autopilot. It was something else doing the driving. I was just along for the ride, a passenger in my own body, feeling the steering wheel turn under my palms and knowing I wasn't the one turning it. I made it inside my apartment and locked the door, as if that would help, as if I could lock out something that was already inside me. The spasms started an hour later, full body convulsions that slammed me to the floor. My back arched so hard I thought my spine would snap. My limbs jerked in directions they weren't supposed to bend. I bit down on my tongue and tasted copper. Blood filled my mouth. I tried to scream, but my jaw was clenched shut, teeth grinding together with so much force I felt one crack. The sound was wet and sharp, like stepping on a snail. Each spasm was different. Each one targeted a specific muscle group: calves, forearms, neck, abs. It was isolating them, testing them, learning how much tension each one could take before it tore. I could feel the deliberate quality of it. This wasn't a seizure. This wasn't random. This was experimentation. And I was the subject. When it finally stopped, I lay there on the cold kitchen tile, drooling blood, unable to move. My body was exhausted, but my mind was screaming because I understood now. I understood what was happening. Something had gotten into my nervous system, into the electrical signals that made me move, made me feel, made me human. And it was learning how to use me. I crawled to my phone, dialed my doctor's office. The receptionist answered and I tried to explain, but the words came out wrong, garbled. My tongue wouldn't cooperate. She asked me to repeat myself. I tried again. This time my mouth just opened and closed silently, like a fish drowning in air. I hung up. The pulling sensation returned, stronger now. It felt like someone was grabbing handfuls of my insides and yanking them in opposite directions. Pain shot through my chest, down my arms, into my jaw. I thought I was having a heart attack, but my heart was fine. It was just the nerves around it being pulled taut like guitar strings, vibrating with a frequency that didn't belong in a human body. I stumbled to the bathroom, needed to see myself, needed confirmation that I was still here. The mirror showed me something I didn't recognize. My face was twitching, micro expressions cycling through emotions I wasn't feeling. Happy, sad, angry, afraid. My features rearranged themselves like a slideshow, testing which muscles created which expressions. My own reflection grinned at me. I wasn't grinning. That's when my vision fractured. The world split into overlapping images, double, triple, quadruple. I could see the bathroom from four slightly different angles at once, like my optic nerves were being hijacked and fed conflicting data. I closed my eyes, but it didn't help. The fragmentation was happening behind my eyelids, in my brain, in the processing center that made sense of what I saw. I opened my eyes again, and the bathroom kaleidoscoped around me, tilting and spinning and multiplying till I couldn't tell which version was real. I vomited, fell to my knees, pressed my forehead against the cool porcelain of the toilet and tried to breathe. The fractured vision slowly resolved, coalesced back into one image, one bathroom, one me. But I knew it could happen again, would happen again, because whatever this was, it was still exploring, still testing. I spent the night on the bathroom floor, too afraid to move, too afraid to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt it probing deeper, touching parts of my nervous system I didn't know existed. The autonomic functions I never thought about: heart rate, breathing, digestion. It was mapping all of it, taking inventory. I could feel my heartbeat stutter, speed up, slow down, not because of fear, because something was learning how to regulate it manually. By morning, I couldn't feel my legs, not numb, not paralyzed, just absent, like they'd been unplugged. I looked down and they were still there, still attached, but the signals weren't reaching my brain anymore. I tried to move them. Nothing. I dragged myself out of the bathroom using my arms, pulling my dead weight across the apartment. My phone was on the kitchen counter. I needed to call anyone. I reached up, fingers brushing the edge of the counter. My hand spasmed, knocked the phone to the floor. It skittered under the refrigerator. I cursed, tried to reach it. My arm extended further than it should have, bent at an angle that wasn't natural. I heard something pop in my shoulder, felt the tendons stretch past their limit, but my hands kept going, fingers elongating, reaching into the dark space under the fridge. I got the phone, pulled my arm back. It hurt. God, it hurt. God, it hurt. But the pain was distant, muffled, like it was happening to someone else, and I was just getting the echo. I unlocked the screen, tried to dial. My fingers moved on their own, typed numbers I didn't recognize, called a number that didn't exist. The line rang. Someone answered, not a voice, static. But underneath the static, something else, a pattern, a rhythm. It sounded like breathing, like whispering, like the hum of electrical current moving through a wire. I listened. I don't know why I listened. I should have hung up, but I couldn't. My hand wouldn't let me. It held the phone to my ear, and I heard that sound, and I understood. It was listening too. The phone fell from my hand. My legs suddenly worked again, feeling flooded back into the mall at once. Overwhelming, like sticking your frozen hand into hot water. I screamed, scrambled backward. My body moved in ways that felt wrong, joints bending in reverse, muscles contracting out of sequence. I was a puppet, and the strings were being pulled by something that didn't understand how puppets were supposed to move. I crashed into the coffee table, glass shattered. Pain exploded across my back. Real pain, the kind that cut through the fog. I grabbed a shard of glass without thinking, held it in my shaking hand. Blood dripped from my palm where the itches bit into flesh. I looked at it, at the blood, at the proof that I was still in here, still real. Then my hand turned the glass toward my own throat. I fought it, tried to drop the shard, tried to pull my arm away, but my body wasn't listening to me anymore. It was listening to something else. The glass against my skin, not hard enough to cut, just enough to rest there. A threat, a demonstration. I could feel my pulse beating against the sharp edge, could feel how close I was to the end. My hand relaxed, the glass clattered to the floor. I collapsed, shaking, sobbing, terrified in a way I'd never been before, because I realized what this was, what it had always been. This wasn't an infection, wasn't a disease. This was something intelligent, something that had found a way into the electrical highway of my nervous system and was using me as a testing ground. It wasn't trying to kill me, it was learning how to be me. The dance blurred together after that. I stopped trying to fight. What was the point? Every time I resisted, it just pushed harder, took more control. So I let it explore, let it pull and twist and reroute until I couldn't tell anymore where I ended and it began. My body moved through routines I didn't choose, ate food I didn't want, spoke words I didn't think. People noticed. Of course they noticed. Diana came by the apartment, knocked on the door, called my name. I watched through the peephole as my hand unlocked the deadbolt, as my mouth smiled and said I was fine. As my body invited her inside, she looked concerned. Asked if I'd seen a doctor. I heard myself say yes. Heard myself say Wes. heard myself lie, watched her face relax, where she talked and I responded. But I wasn't choosing the words, they just came out. Natural, convincing, like a script being read by an actor who'd memorized the part. Dana eventually left, said she was glad I was feeling better. I closed the door behind her, walked it, stood there in the silence of my apartment and realized I was completely alone, trapped inside my own body with something that was getting better at pretending to be me every single day. The pain came back in waves, not as punishment, as refinement. It was learning which nerves created which sensations, how much stimulation it took to produce fear, pleasure, agony. It would trigger them in isolation, pure sensation divorced from context. I would feel terror without a source, arousal without desire, pain that started and stopped with surgical precision, never quite enough to make me pass out. I tried to end it once, found a bottle of pills in the medicine cabinet, poured them into my palm, stared at them. All I had to do was swallow, let the chemicals flood my system and shut everything down, but my hand wouldn't lift them to my mouth. It just held them there, and then it poured them back into the bottle, closed the cap, put them away. It wouldn't let me die. I was too useful. Time lost meaning. I stopped going to work, stopped answering calls, stopped pretending. My body kept functioning, eating, sleeping, maintaining itself. But I was just a passenger now, a consciousness stuffed into the back corner of my own skull, watching everything happen through eyes I no longer controlled. Sometimes I could feel it thinking, not in words, in patterns, in calculations. It was mapping pain pathways with scientific detachment, learning which combination of nerve signals produced the most intense response, which sequence of muscle contractions created the most efficient movement. It was optimizing me, stripping away the inefficiencies of human design and rebuilding something better. Or worse, I don't know how long I've been like this. Weeks? Months? The calendar on the wall says March, but I could swear it was January yesterday. Or maybe it's been years and I've just lost track. My body looks same in the mirror, maybe a little thinner, paler, but still recognizably me, still wearing my face, still moving through the world like nothing's wrong. But inside I'm screaming. Inside I'm being unmade piece by piece, by signal, while something else learns how to wear me. And the worst part, the part that keeps me awake during the few moments it lets me sleep, I can feel it getting ready to move on, to take what it's learned and find a new test subject, a new nervous system to map, a new body to break in and rewire. It's almost done with me. Last night I felt it testing the connections one final time, running through every nerve pathway, every muscle group, every sensory input, like a final exam, like a pilot doing a pre-flight check. And when it was satisfied, when it had confirmed that everything worked exactly as it should, I felt something I haven't felt in a long time. Relief. Not mine. It's relief. Because the experiment was complete, the data was collected, the system was fully mapped, and now it knows exactly how to hurt a human being from the inside out, knows which nerves to pull to make us dance, which signals to hijack to make us speak, which pathways to reroute to make us do things we'd never choose to do. It's been quiet today. No pulling, no spasms, no fractured vision or stolen movements. Just silence. Just me, sitting here in my apartment, feeling almost normal for the first time in forever. And that's how I know it's over. That's how I know it's moving on. But before it goes, I need to tell someone, need to warn them. Because I saw what it was doing in those final tests. I felt the calculations, the preparations. It wasn't just mapping one nervous system. It was learning how to spread, how to jump from one person to another through the tiniest contact. A handshake, a brush of skin, a shared breath in close quarters. Diana came by again yesterday. She hugged me, said she was worried, said I looked sick. I felt my arms hug her back, felt my body press close to hers, felt the moment of contact stretch just a little too long. And when she pulled away, I saw her wince, saw her touch the back of her neck like something had stung her there. She said she was fine, said it was probably nothing, said she'd call me later. She called me an hour ago. Her voice was shaking. She said her spine felt hot, said her hands weren't working right, said she was scared. I told her it was nothing, told her it would pass, told her to get some rest, and I listened as she thanked me, as she hung up, as she walked deeper into the trap that had already closed around her. I'm still here, still me, still trapped in this body that works perfectly now because it's been trained, been optimized, been transformed into something that looks human but moves like a machine. And somewhere out there, Diana is starting to understand what that tingling in her spine really means. What it feels like to have something crawl inside your nervous system and start pulling wires. I want to warn her. I want to tell her to run. But my hands are already reaching for my phone. Already typing a message to someone else. Already spreading the invitation. Already doing what it taught me to do. Because it isn't hurting me to kill me. It never was. It was mapping pain so it could teach others how to carry it. Learning the architecture of human suffering so it could build a network. And I'm not the victim anymore. I'm the first node, the prototype, the blueprint for everything that comes next. And all I can do is watch as my fingers keep typing, keep reaching out, keep pulling more people into the web of wires we're building, one nervous system at a time.